Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of video analysis on Irish history, and in particular our ongoing sub-series of videos on Northern Ireland. Today we're looking at Ireland from the period of 1945 to 2000, and for the purpose of this video we'll be looking at Northern Ireland before and after the Troubles. And to do the Troubles proper justice and to give it, proper attention, we'll have that in another video at a later date. So, looking at Northern Ireland during this time, we have to look at a couple of key questions, like what was the welfare state and what were its effects? What was the civil rights campaign and how did the Protestants react to it? What were the main terms of the Sunningdale Agreement in 73, the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1985, and the Good Friday Agreement of 1997, and how successful were they? Let's take a deep dive and begin, shall we? So, after the war, there was a general election in Britain in 1945, and the Labour Party won. They introduced what was known as the welfare state. This meant that the state provided to all citizens free healthcare through the NHS, National Health Service, free secondary education for all children, and better old age pensions and unemployment pay. Thousands of new houses were built socially across Northern Ireland. What were its effects? Well, the welfare state had a major effect on the lives of the poor people, both Catholic and Protestant. They had decent housing and healthcare. The children of poor families gained the most. If they passed an exam at 11, which is called the 11 plus, they got free grammar school places. This would give them a good chance of going to a university. Catholics and Protestants benefited equally. The free education system also produced a new type of leadership for the nationalists. Educated Catholics were not prepared to accept being second-class citizens anymore, and this created the civil rights movement in the 1960s with leaders like John Hume. Now, as a result of the welfare state, both Catholics and Protestants had a much higher standard of living than people in the Republic. Many Catholics were not prepared to give up all the advantages of living in the North for the sake of reunification, and they began to change their views of the Northern Ireland state. Now, we mentioned in our video of Ireland from 1950 to 1966 about the impact of Sean Lemass and his relationship with Terence O'Neill. Now, we're looking at it from the Northern Irish context. In 1963, Terence O'Neill succeeded Lord Brookborough as Prime Minister of Northern Ireland. He wanted relations with the Catholics to get better. He also improved relations with the Republic. He had two meetings in Dublin and Belfast with the Taoiseach Sean Lemass. More extreme Protestants such as the Orange Order and Ian Paisley were horrified by O'Neill's soft approach towards the Catholics, and they were afraid and terrified that this would endanger the North's link with Britain. And it goes back to that old idea and that old slogan that we hadn't heard from a while, even if they weren't saying it outwardly, the idea that they're afraid of this Rome rule. Now, we also had the Civil Rights Campaign. And the first mention of this and the first real effort by this is by the Northern Irish Civil Rights Association, or the NICRA. So, the NICRA was formed in 1967 to end discrimination in the North. Nationalists were disappointed that O'Neill did not end this discrimination, so this is why NICRA was formed. So, what they demanded was one person, one vote in local elections, an end to discrimination in jobs and houses, and they staged peaceful marches to highlight their aims. Major figures in the campaign for civil rights included Gerry Fitt, John Hume, and Bernadette Devlin. The Protestants reacted to this badly, though. Often when there was a NICRA march, Ian Paisley organised a counter-demonstration. This would result in riots. The RUC and the B Specials would attack the civil rights marches. Pictures of RUC attacks on peaceful marches were shown on TV throughout the world. This embarrassed the British government. This forced the Unionists to agree to civil rights for the Catholics. Discrimination ended in areas such as housing and in local elections. So, in other words, as we said in our last video, this ended the process of gerrymandering thanks to people like Hume, Fitt, and Devlin. Now, as well as that, the B Specials were disbanded. O'Neill was forced to resign when he had lost the support of his party because he had to accept these reforms. So even though O'Neill wanted to put this forward and O'Neill accepted these reforms and he had no other choice, he was still forced to resign. Now, we'll get to the Troubles at a later date, so we're going to jump forward slightly and have a look at the idea of after the Troubles, specifically from 1974 onwards. Okay? So, IRA prisoners were arrested in 1980 and they were sent to the Maze prison. The H blocks and they wanted to be treated differently from criminals. They wanted to be seen as political prisoners with political status. They also wanted to wear their own clothes. The British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher refused these demands. As a result, some of the prisoners went on hunger strike in 1980. Bobby Sands was the first person to do this. The British still did not give in. Bobby Sands died after 66 days on hunger strike. 9 other prisoners died later in 1981. Eventually, the hunger strikes were called off. The IRA prisoners didn't get political status, however, this did lead to a huge support for the IRA internationally, with Bobby Sands being seen as more of a hero and a martyr now, and Thatcher even more vilified than she had previously had been. It does push forward with the Anglo-Irish Agreement of 1985 though. So in 85, the Irish government, led by Garth Fitzgerald, persuaded the British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher that the best hope of ending violence in Northern Ireland was to involve the Irish government. Now, there was the bombing of the Grand Hotel in Brighton by the IRA in 1984, where the Conservative Party had their conference and Margaret Thatcher had a narrow escape. So she was willing to go and negotiate, and this resulted in the Anglo-Irish Agreement in 1985. The main terms were that the Irish Republic had a role in the internal affairs of Northern Ireland, and that the Irish Republic agreed that unification would only and ever happen if a majority of people in Northern Ireland voted for it. Unionists protested that they didn't want the Irish Republic having any say in the internal affairs of Northern Ireland. However, the British government stood firm and finally ignored the Unionist demonstrations. This agreement laid the foundation for further progress in Northern Ireland. The decision of the British government to support this agreement helped bring about the IRA ceasefire in 1994. And the most important of all was the Good Friday Agreement of 1998. In 1997, though, the Labour Party won the general election in Britain. The new Prime Minister, Tony Blair, was committed to bringing peace to Northern Ireland. He was helped by the fact that the Unionist Party leader, David Trimble, was willing to talk to Republicans. These men, helped by John Hume of the SDLP, Gerry Adams of Sinn Féin, and Bertie Ahern, who was the Taoiseach at the time, succeeded in reaching this agreement on Good Friday in 1998. Hence the name. The main terms of the Good Friday Agreement were there would be an elected assembly in Stormont in Northern Ireland. You'd have a government elected by the assembly, in which the Ulster Unionists, Sinn Féin and the SDLP agreed to share power, and Articles 2 and 3 were removed from the Republic's constitution. These claimed control over the 6 counties of Northern Ireland, and this was made by De Valera in 1937 in Bunreacht na hÉireann. So, for more information on that, remember to watch the Fianna Fáil in Power 1932-39 video that I had posted on this page. Now, the terms of the Good Friday Agreement was accepted in a referendum. Violence decreased dramatically. And as we can see here, this is Tony Blair on your left and Bertie Ahern on your right signing the Good Friday Agreement. In 2007, the IRA finally put their guns beyond use, to quote themselves. Now, Ian Paisley of the DUP, the man who refused to deal with Catholics, the man who wanted Terence O'Neill to resign, that you see here on your left, was elected the First Minister, in other words, the Prime Minister of Northern Ireland, and Martin McGuinness was elected the Deputy First Minister, the same Martin McGuinness who was the Chief of Staff for the IRA in the 1970s and 1980s. This huge power-sharing moment was formed. As you can see here, Paisley on your right and McGuinness on your left. And to show the further healing and the further how peace had developed, you see Martin McGuinness agreeing to meet with the Queen back in 2011 to show you how far the country had come. Thanks for watching. We'll be back again with another video real soon. Take care. Goodbye.